Hey there. Welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 370. I'm Mike.
I'm Scott.
Yep, Scott is joining me again for our fourth episode, our fourth collaboration.
Starting to feel like a regular.
Yep, so that's cool. Happy to have you. My usual co-host, Chad, he's still pretty busy with his business and his other jobs and his love life and all that sort of stuff. So, I've had to bring you in here to help me out.
Temporary replacement.
Yeah. It'd be great if we could have all three of us on. It's just, I don't know. I think the logistics of that might be tough.
It might be. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, he could just kneel on the floor here between us or something. All right, so we just shot an episode all about our latest comic books. So if you're interested in comic book talk, go find that one. That was probably published a week ago. But now we're going to talk about toys.
Yes.
So I've actually been getting a lot of new toys. Pre-orders that were supposed to come in like August have started arriving 2 months early. So yeah, I'm kind of behind on my videos because I've got to I've got Transformers, I've got Masters of the Universe, reaction figures, DC superpowers. I've got a lot of things to talk about.
Got a lot of stuff over there.
Yeah, my desk. We're looking at my desk over here, and it's just a mess of stuff. But yeah, this is going to be a miscellaneous episode. So the stuff that I have to talk about are just some odds and ends that don't really fit into their own video. And this is stuff that I probably purchased in just the last 2 to 3 weeks. You have brought a whole mini collection with you.
Yes, I brought my biker mice from our stuff, and then one oddball figure that you talked about on your last episode, but you don't have this one.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
So that's a surprise even to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about biker mice from ours last time you were on.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a franchise that you liked when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You had the toys when you were a kid. I admit to being completely oblivious. I knew they existed, but I think I was too old for them.
Probably, yeah.
And I think, to me, and this isn't saying they are or to take away anything, but they felt like a kind of a knockoff type of property. Like, once Ninja Turtles was huge, and then they followed that up with Battle Toads and
Street Sharks,
Cowboys of Moon Mesa, Street Sharks, and these guys. It all just felt a little contrived. Yeah. So I never bothered with those things, but I'm sure if I was a little bit younger, I probably would have been all over it. So yeah, it's Nacelle. That's the company that's making the new toys. So you have, is it all of Wave 1?
I have all of Wave 1 except for, and I don't know if they included these in Wave 1 or not, but they had black and white versions of a couple of these that I didn't bother getting. Okay. So if they were the regular biker mice, so back in...
What's the thought process? Did they have a black and white comic book or anything, or just...
Nope, just seems like it's a trend lately where they're just doing black and white versions of things. And sometimes they look really cool. We both have that Playmates Last Ronin figure, which looks awesome. I actually like it better than... I have both versions, and I do like the black and white one better.
Yeah, me too.
If they made the regular biker mice figures in the black and white, I probably would have got them. But back in the 90s... For some reason, there was a trend of making sports figure versions of the toys. Ninja Turtles had them.
They had jerseys on and football helmets and all that stuff.
So they did that with these guys as well. So this is Vinny, and he's got a basketball uniform on, and this is not a weapon he would normally have, so it's just for the toy, and there's a magnet in here.
Oh, that's cool.
It doesn't launch or anything, but it's great for just showing off. But so this is...
I haven't seen these toys really yet.
Yeah.
So he's cool. He feels good.
Yeah. Now, some of them, their tails are a little sensitive. They might fall off, but they pop back in.
Now, what... So Vinny here, he's a white mouse, and he's got red eyes, so he looks like a lab rat.
So so with the biker mice, they were from another planet, and there was a massive war there. So he had part of his face blown off.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, he's got a half metal plate.
Yeah, and it's like a robot eye. And then we have Moto, who was my
Well,
favorite.
I wouldn't say this gun is really cool. Like
Yeah.
the shape of it, how it sits on his shoulder
on his
like
shoulder,
that.
yeah.
It looks like it would probably hurt to have that on here.
Yeah, I would imagine if there was any sort of kickback, it would probably take him out.
Yeah, like he's wearing just like a tank top, and then this thing. It looks like it's almost saw blades that sit on around
Pretty
his
much.
shoulder. It looks kind of dangerous.
Yeah, and like I don't recall that ever being in the show, so I don't
Probably
know where
not,
they came
yeah.
with some of these things.
And let me just add before you get into that guy.
Yeah.
So in the Ninja Turtles introductory cartoon, they very quickly tell you he's a party dude.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
loves machines. What's this guy's deal?
So he's like the playboy flirt.
Okay.
So he's always hitting on all the ladies and thinks he's the cool guy, and he would be the Fonzie of the group.
Okay.
I would say yeah. And
Cool.
then there was Moto was my favorite. So he was the biggest guy. So he had his arm blown off. So he's got a robot arm. And he lost an eye in the war. So he's a football guy, and he's got a little football gun launcher.
Okay. Not as impressive, but
yeah.
And he comes with a hot dog.
Yeah, hot dog. They were obsessed with hot dogs. So just like the Ninja Turtles had pizza, these guys have hot dogs.
Yeah, again, a little contrived, but yeah. Yeah, this guy's substantially bigger.
Yeah, and now he was the he sort of like Raphael, I guess. So he was like the big tough guy, but he was also really sensitive.
Okay.
So that's what his character was basically.
Okay.
And then
how much is one of these figures?
Oof. So I think they were probably somewhere between $40 and $50. I think they were close to $50 by the time tax and everything were done.
Sadly, pretty standard.
Yeah.
Like that's more expensive than like a Marvel Legend or a Star Wars Black Series, but those are produced by Hasbro, but any kind of like smaller company, like kind of boutique style toys, that's pretty normal, I think.
Yeah.
And they feel like quality figures.
Yeah, and I mean, and there's also not a lot of them. Like there's only so many characters, which we'll talk about. So the reason I brought these guys because they just announced Wave 2 is coming. So this is relevant, but it's not coming till like I think February 2026 or maybe even later than that. So I have time to put some money away. And then this guy was Throttle. So he is the leader. So he's the baseball guy.
All right.
In this, and so he'd be like the Leonardo of the group.
Now it looks like he's got a Gatling gun that shoots baseball bats.
Yeah, and again, not from the show,
but that's pretty awesome.
And then I brought. So this was what the original figures were like. So I picked him up at one of our local toy collection things.
Okay. Throttle.
Yeah. So definitely a size difference from the old original ones.
Yep,
for sure. More articulation.
Like this guy's in like 5 inches maybe.
Yeah, somewhere's around there.
And this guy's like more like 7.
Yeah.
And like more articulate. Like I'm actually surprised these guys are as articulated as they are.
I think it was Galoob.
Like he's got
the brand.
Yeah. So like he's not that like he's got knees and elbows, but
and like they also had motorcycles that you could get for them. So I mean they had a move to be able to get on the bike.
Like he's got ball jointed shoulders, but his arms only seem to be able to move out like this much.
Yeah.
So you can't like have him do this or anything.
No.
But it's not bad. Like in the sculpt and the paint and everything.
And then with these guys, they came with helmets. If you got the bike there, or these guys came with helmets, and their antennas would squish down, so you could put the helmet on them.
Okay.
These new guys just come with swappable heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive gun.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't remember them having anything like this in the cartoon. I could be wrong. I am rewatching them I found them on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're originally in German, and then people try to fix the voice of it, and sometimes it's still playing the German one. So it's been a little hit or miss. And then these are what they regularly looked like, and then these are their bikes. So this is what Vinny would normally look like. And this was his bike, and then he's got like this gun that magneted on the back.
Did the bike just come without a figure, or was it a 2-pack?
No, I had to buy the bike separately. I can't remember what these cost, but they were not cheap. And again, these are
buy 3 of them.
Yep. And then these were about 3 times the size, or twice the size of what they were when they first came out.
Yeah, this one's got a little bit of a Tron vibe to it.
Yeah, so he's like the cool guy, so he has like the stunt bikes on this. His bike was like the speedy one, and he would do tricks and try to show off and things like that.
So this is cool. I got to be careful. Last thing
Yeah.
I need you to do is get me into a new toy line, but these are cool. I like them.
Yeah, they are fun.
So,
And like
his
this
head
guy's
just popped off. I tried to get it to look forward, but
yeah, and then this guy's tail just came off. But this is throttle on his bike, and then there is there's like little attachable rockets and stuff.
Yeah,
and then is it this one with the button? His
Okay.
lights up.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll come across on the video, but yeah, the front and the back light up.
Yeah.
So those ones don't have any light.
These ones don't light up. Oh wait, they do. Well, not like his. So
Okay.
all of them, these light up, but he's at like the rear
The
part
tail
there.
light.
Yeah. And then,
that's cool. But yeah, much more of a traditional bike for this guy. And like his head just popped off too.
Yeah.
Those ball joints are pretty shallow.
Yeah. And then Moto, he's got the bigger chopper.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, this is cool. This looks more like something like Ghost Rider would ride on.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, he was my favorite, so I was pretty excited to get him.
And I think I kind of like his sports outfit better than his standard outfit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I have no attachment.
Yeah.
If I grew up with them and this is his standard outfit, I probably would like this more. But
yeah. And like I said, if these guys came in black and white, I probably would have been more tempted to get them.
So was it the sports version came in black and white?
The sports version came in black and white for some reason, and I'm not sure why. Like I don't know why they did a black and white version, and I don't know why they chose the sports ones. But yeah, and then the only other oddball I brought was this is Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2, and this is his the blue and like silvery whitish grayish suit. So in the game, I always put this suit on once I got it because it looks like Toronto Maple Leaf colors almost. So that was why. So when I saw that they were making this, I was like, I definitely have to get this.
So that's Peter Parker, is it?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Because the Game Reverse, this wave of figures just came out.
Yeah.
The only one I bought was the non-Spider-Man. I got the Black Cat, which I reviewed in my 2 episodes ago.
Yep.
But then there's 1 or 2 Peters and then 3 or 4 Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this figure. So does he don this suit in the game for any reason? Does it have any functionality?
No, so there's a ton of different suits in the game.
Yeah.
So just as you accomplish different things, you can get different suits for both characters, and then you can just kind of pick whatever one you want to continue on with. So yeah, so I would always pick that one for Peter.
I like it.
Yeah, and then I also saw today at EB Games a Venom from Spider-Man 2 that I'm quite tempted to.
Is he really tall?
Yeah, he's really big. I think it was $90.
Mm.
So it was, that part. It depends on what my comic fee looks like next weekend.
This is your first ever Marvel Legend.
It is,
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a potential slippery slope.
Yes, it definitely is. Because now that I have him, I'm like, oh well, if I get Venom, I should probably get a normal looking Spider-Man. But then again, if I get the game one, I'm like, well, this was my game Spider-Man. So if I get game Venom, then I might be okay with just having those two. Trying to find logic in my head to not go too deep into it.
You guys can't see it, but just behind the tablet we're shooting on, I have my Marvel Legends collection. And there's, I don't know, 600 of them, maybe. And I could still buy more. I've got new ones to talk about. They just announced the San Diego Comic-Con box set that I'm probably going to have to buy. I just love Marvel, and there's so many Marvel characters that I could buy. And I didn't buy this one because I've never played the game.
Right, yeah.
I don't know this costume, but it doesn't take much for me to be like, well, this is pretty cool. Yeah. Now that I have it in my hand, I kind of like this.
And the thing, I'm used to the Biker Mice figures. I have Street Sharks. I have Alf. I'm just getting into Ninja Turtles. So I don't have any figures that can move.
Yeah, the articulation.
So I don't know how long it took me to figure out what kind of pose I wanted to put him in, and then I had him in that pose for a week, and I was like, time to change it to something different. And he did come with a different head and some different hands, and it was a web accessory.
And plus, even though it's not significantly cheaper, But when you're used to buying $50 biker mice and like some of those Ninja Turtle figures, like $60 from NECA and stuff, when all of a sudden you get like a $35 figure,
this wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it feels like a bargain all of a sudden.
Yeah, because I got I mean, like a lot of my Turtles figures I have are the Last Ronin NECA figures. Those were quite pricey.
Yep.
There are a couple of the Loyal Subjects Best Action line that aren't too bad.
Right.
So I got 3. I just got 3 off Big Bad because there was a exclusive Dark Leonardo on there, and I had to have him in my collection now that I've read that comic.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and then there was also a Shredder and a Foot Assassin on there that I didn't know existed from the IDW comics. So, I got to throw those in the loot as well. From ordering it, might as well order a few things.
Yep. Now, I actually have the Gamerverse Spider-Man, the first figure they ever produced from probably the first Spider-Man game, where he's got like a white, like spider kind of.
Yeah.
My mic. But what sucks about it is like my guy's, the joint is like fused, so I'm like I forever have him like pose like this on my shelf because like his arm won't like go down.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to be this posable, but every now and again, like just I don't know, the plastic is like stuck to the other plastic. And I tried to warm it up with a hairdryer and everything. I kind of went at it with like a little chisel trying to like pick at it, and it wouldn't. So yeah, I don't know why I'm sharing that. It's just I've had that figure for years, and it annoys me to this day. Even though once I get a new figure and I take pictures and I review it, it goes on a shelf and it basically stays on that shelf for eternity. But like just knowing that his joint is screwed up, it bothers me. I can't even see him from here. He's probably in the back of one of those shelves somewhere. But anyway.
Yeah, so he's the only figure that I've been consistently taking off the shelf and like moving around and doing different things with. Everybody else pretty much gets in. I figure out how I want to present them, and then they stay in that pose. So yeah, so those are the items that I brought.
Very cool. And yeah, now that we talked in the last episode about the comic books that you're reading.
Yeah.
So right now you're kind of all over the place. You're reading a lot of Ninja Turtles, a lot of Biker Mice from Mars. And so with Marvel, it's just Spider-Man right now?
Just Spider-Man, yeah.
But yeah, even just that alone. Like, I don't know if after reading 5 issues of him fighting the Hobgoblin, if you're like kind of tempted to get a Hobgoblin figure or...
I'm very tempted for... So, again, in the video game, Kraven was such a badass character in the video game.
Yeah.
And he's like monstrous in the video game. Like, he looks like he should be almost the same size as Venom.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, like I've been looking at the different Kraven figures. Some of them are appealing to me, but I'm hoping to get that gamer one. But I feel like the more I read like Predator or Spider-Man, he's in that.
Yeah.
And now when I'm looking at that figure that exists where he looks more like that, I'm like, maybe I do want that.
Yeah, like I've got 2 Cravens. I can see one up there behind the chameleon. Yeah. There's another one hiding behind Jack-o'-lantern over there. You can just see the spear. Yeah, Kraven's a cool character.
And I like Rhino.
Yeah.
And the Rhino figures also, like they're plain. I mean, he's a Rhino. But they're also big and bulky, and he looks powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll get a Rhino figure. Like, I feel like very, very quickly it's going to happen where I have a Spider-Man shelf and shelves. And like Turtles, I was like, I'm not going to get into Turtles. And I was like, okay, I'm getting into Last Ronin, but not the regular Turtles. And now I have almost a full shelf of just Turtle stuff happening like within a month. It happened all very quickly.
Yeah, you might even have to box up your Alfs eventually to make room for Spider-Man.
Oh, that cannot happen. I will buy a new house before that happens.
Yeah. All right, so I got some new stuff to talk about too.
Yeah.
One of them I bought just before you got here.
Okay.
So I was so I go to Strange Adventures for my comic books. You go to Giant Robot Comic.
Yeah.
I don't usually get over to Giant Robot Comic, but they posted. I think this was I don't know if it was a trade-in because this toy is a little bit older, but they posted it on their Instagram today and said, "Hey, we got this toy here." And I said, "Oh, can I get it?" And I never get to anything first.
Right.
They're always like, "Already spoken for," and I'm like, "Oh." But anyway, they posted this toy, and I said, "Can I get that?" And they said, "Yeah, we've got it out back for you." And I was like, "Great," but it's kind of a nuisance for me to get over there. So I was hoping to recruit Chad to go get it for me because he was in Dartmouth today, but he was in like a meeting and he got held up and he couldn't go. And I was like, whatever. So I went over there myself and I got it. So this here is Ryu.
Okay.
From the Jada Street Fighter.
I saw them
series.
post that.
Yeah, so Jada has been making these Street Fighter toys for like 2 years now, maybe. And Ryu was from the first wave. I don't even know if he might have just been the first figure. I don't know if there was more than one figure. But I remember when this first came out, and I thought it was cool. But I'm not like a mega Street Fighter fan. I was kind of like, you know what? I might get some of those when they get around to making my favorite characters, which was going to be like Cammy, Chun-Li, Dhalsim, E Honda, maybe. So I got some of my favorite characters, but then I ended up picking up some of the other characters that I like. But the toys are just so nice.
Yeah, was Dhalsim the first one you got?
Chun-Li was the first one I got.
Okay.
But then I got Dhalsim, and then I got M Bison, and then Fei Long and Cammy. I have, I think, 6 of them now. Yeah. And then I was kind of kicking myself because Ryu was now nowhere to be found. And even though he wasn't one of my favorite characters, he is a character that I like. Yeah. You know, he's been around since the original Street Fighter
one
game.
Of the more well-known.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to have to go on eBay and try and like pay premium prices for him. And I've actually had him in my Amazon cart for a while. He's listed on Amazon for like $42 plus tax. And I'm like, that's not that bad. Most of these toys were like 25 to 30 in stores. So I'm like, I'm
almost double.
Yeah, it's almost. So I didn't love that. But if I bought them on eBay or something, it would have been more. Yeah. Because Amazon has free shipping at least. So I've had him in my cart and I've been eyeballing him for a while. But then, Giant Robot posted him for $34.99 today. And these are Canadian prices, which is why it might sound a little higher than you would expect. But I was like, okay, $34.99. I was like, that's like, better than Amazon. So I went there and I grabbed them. Haven't opened them yet, obviously. Maybe I'll do I'll insert shot when I open them up. But I'm happy to have this guy.
Yeah, I remember seeing him post them. And since you and Chad have been talking about these figures, I'll see them sometimes. I'm like, should I get one? I wasn't huge into Street Fighter. I played it, but it wasn't one of my favorite games. But then you guys talk about how good the figures are in general. And
the same way you feel about your Spider-Man, because you have all these other toys that you like. But then you get Spider-Man in your hand, you're like, wow, his head doesn't fall off the way the biker mice heads fall off. You can pose him kicking like a scissor kick, and he holds the pose, and you're just kind of like, wow. That's kind of what I felt like, even though I have a bunch of Marvel Legends. When I got this guy, I was like, wow, he moves great. He's got all these accessories, feels super fluid, and he was $25. The first one I got. I was like, so I'm like, for that price, they're giving me this good a quality figure, and it kind of made me fall in love with the toy line. And I really wasn't expecting to go that deep into this toy line, but now I'm buying characters that I initially would not have. I have Blanca and was it Sagat on pre-order, and now they've got Vega up for pre-order. I'm going to get him too. So so far the only one I haven't bought is DJ, but I might cave and get him eventually too. So I was glad to get him for cheaper than I thought I was going to have to pay.
Yeah, and I know you don't play with your toys either. I don't play with these, but sometimes. But for the most part, I don't. But sometimes when you get the toy, like we were just about how nice they move and stuff, you appreciate that. If I was to play with this, I feel like I'd get a lot of use out of it. I could do a lot of different things with it, and he wouldn't fall apart.
Yeah, well, it's just like, I really like Super 7 reaction figures. They're cool. Yeah. But if I played with them as a kid, your guys would be fighting like this, kind of a slap fight. So they make great little display pieces, but, they would have, how fun would they have been? Yeah. This guy here, you can tell he
recreated stuff in the game with these.
Yeah, like he could
Yeah.
sit in a vehicle, or he could do lots of stuff. He can punch and he can kick, and he can hang on to the bottom of a helicopter, and
Yeah.
like he's posable. He's got alternate hands and alternate faces and blast accessories and a display stand.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely a great pickup.
Which is sort of going to lead into my next figure. So I was not very familiar with Jada Toys just a couple of years ago. I think they made like die-cast cars and stuff and like whatever. And I'm a big fan of the Universal Monsters. So NECA had been putting out really nice Universal Monsters.
Yeah.
But they feel probably like the last Ronin figures that you collect. They look nice, but they're a little stiff. They're a little delicate. You don't want to. You're afraid to mess with them too much. So I like the NECA figures, but yeah, if I would never give that to a kid to play with. It's like they are clearly collectible. And then this company Jada put out their own Universal Monsters, and they looked more like toys. Like, okay, you can actually handle this thing and not worry about it breaking. And so my favorite Universal Monster is the Wolfman. So I bought the Jada Wolfman. And NECA hadn't done an Invisible Man yet, and Jada beat them to the punch, so I bought the Invisible Man. And I loved both of those figures, and I did a video a while ago where I kind of compared NECA's monsters versus Jada's monsters, and they both had their pros and their cons. Anyway, I was tempted to get some of Jada's other monsters, but if I was I didn't really want to buy all these monsters twice, because these toys aren't cheap. And I think I ultimately landed that NECA makes the better display pieces, and that's mostly what I'm buying these things for.
Yeah.
So I went with NECA. But if there was one other character I would have wanted in the Jada, it's the creature from the Black Lagoon. I didn't necessarily need Jada's Frankenstein or Jada's Dracula, but the creature from the Black Lagoon is kind of like, he's right behind Wolfman as far as my favorites go. Okay. So I bought the Jada creature from Big Bad Toy Store recently. And what really has convinced me is that all these Street Fighter figures have really made me appreciate Jada so much more. Because when I first got the Wolfman and Invisible Man, those were my first experience ever with Jada figures.
Right.
But now that I've got these guys, I'm like, you know what? Jada is not some flash in the pan. These guys know what they're doing. So anyway, I'll give you a quick little rundown of my creature figures.
Okay.
So I've got a ton of little reaction figure creature from the Black Lagoon. We're not going to get into that. But this is my a creature figure. I can't even remember. I think Mezco might have made this. Okay. I've had this for years. It's a very good likeness.
Yeah. Paint
job's nice, kind of a metallic-y green.
Yeah.
But you can see he's got no articulation in his legs.
Right.
His feet spin.
Okay.
But like from his neck down, he's one solid piece of plastic.
Right.
His arms kind of move forward, his wrists turn.
Elbows got pins.
So yeah, he's a nice display piece, but you can't really play with him.
Yeah.
And then I bought this Migo doll, which is like kind of like he's got like soft goods clothes, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be his skin, but anyway, he's fun in that nostalgic retro kind of way. But like,
it's charming.
He's charming, but he's not exactly awesome.
Right.
And then when NECA put their figure out, sure, it was more posable, but I thought it looked a lot like this figure. It was about the same scale, had the same paint job, and I was like, is it really worth me spending $60? Because those figures are about $60, just because this guy's legs move.
Yeah, and you're not going to move them anyway.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't think I can justify it. But then they put out a black and white variant.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, that guy will be different enough to justify having him and him on my shelf together.
Right.
So, like, you can see these guys are about the same size.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy's got like knee articulation and hip articulation.
Yeah.
He's much more articulated. But I'm glad I got the black and white variant. It's like differentiates. So when it comes to the Jada one, there was a standard color and a glow in the dark. And I kind of thought if I got any, I would maybe get the glow in the dark, just because that would further differentiate him.
Right.
However, I put it off for a long time. Then Big Bad advertised that they had the figure for like 20% off or something. And I thought, well, this is the time I'm going to pull the trigger. It's the standard version. It's not the glow-in-the-dark version.
Okay.
However, by the time he was, I think, $19.99 on their website, which looked like a good deal.
Yeah.
But then when you put the Canadian conversion, he's more like $30. Yeah. and then the shipping, and then I got dinged with customs charges, and this figure cost me close to $50 and all that. And I was like, why did I I should have bought it.
Yeah.
The only reason I did it is because I was thinking I was getting a deal. Anyway, here he is.
Okay.
So I got him, and I like him a lot.
Okay.
So I
I'll
don't
give you these two.
Yep, just comparatively, like
And this is Jada.
This is Jada. So these other toys are a bit older.
Yeah.
But if you want to compare them to the NECA one, like the NECA probably has the more realistic sculpt. It's probably closer to film accurate and everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's not too far off.
It's not.
No.
And like I like that guy, the Jada one, could fit in with like Marvel Legends. Like if you grab Spider-Man there again for a second.
Yeah.
Like they probably look like they could fight each other. Whereas like this guy would be he's way out of scale with them. So yeah, I like that I have a Wolfman and a creature that could fit in with my standard 6-inch collectibles.
Yeah.
I could pose these guys. He could fight Ryu.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really nice paint job actually. Like multiple greens. And yeah, you got double jointed elbows, double jointed knees. Like the NECA figure could never do or something.
No.
Like that.
Yeah. It's got the look of a display piece, but it is playable.
Yeah, he's playable.
Yeah.
Like I could
what you want in a toy.
I could give this to one of my nephews and not worried that he's going to come back in pieces.
Right.
And he did come with various things here. So he's got an alternate head with a closed mouth as opposed to an open mouth.
Okay.
Head. He's got some open, like kind of gripping claws. He's got this skeletized hand, which is a kind of like a plot point from the movie when they find a fossilized hand. And he also came with a spear gun, and he came with a net, which is an actual like mesh little net accessory. Yeah. So a good amount of junk.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, not bad.
No, yeah, I like it.
All right, the next one I'll talk about here. So me and Chad, we got a bunch of good deals on DC stuff.
Yes.
We did 2 full episodes all about because GameStop here in Canada, they had a big sale up. We got a bunch of stuff for like dirt cheap. And I kept going after I got everything I wanted, but then I kept thinking like later I'm like I should go back and just check one more time.
A good deal, why not?
So I went back one more time, and I got one last figure. So this figure was marked down to, I think, $10 from the usual like 40. So this is a Harley Quinn, and this is her in her standard outfit, except it's Jokerized. Mm-hmm. So it's colored in green and purple instead of red and black. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of Harley Quinn figures, but the only one I have that actually has her original look is a Funko Pop.
Okay.
All my action figures of her are all her with the pigtails and like the more modern, kind of a little more sexed up versions.
Yeah.
And I thought this was pretty cool to just finally have an action figure of her original design.
Yeah, I like the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
I like this over her bat.
Yeah.
Oh, she looks great.
Yeah, and it doesn't look bad at all. Like the colors, because they've been doing. McFarlane Toys did a bunch of these Jokerized versions of things.
Yeah.
And some characters, like Hush, for example, he looks pretty weird in green and purple, or even Batman in green and purple. But Harley Quinn, like that looks like something she would actually wear.
Yeah, it's
like she is a henchman of the Joker, or a partner of the Joker. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it doesn't look at all abnormal or anything. Now, this figure is kind of strange in that it looks to me like the animated version of her.
Yeah.
But it's not part of the animated line, so arguably this would be her as she appears in the regular DC comic book continuity. In which case, I don't know if I really think she blends in with my other toys over there. She looks a little too cartoony.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be from the animated series.
Yeah. But whatever. Like, it's a nice figure. $10.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong, really. And yeah, like I said, it's just I have her in a bunch of different designs, and it's just nice to get a classic looking Harley. All right, the last toy I have to talk about. It's another McFarlane figure, but it is not DC. So in our last episode where we talked about comic books, I was telling you about how I am reading the Spawn universe.
Yes.
So I still have my stack of comic books here that we talked about in the last episode. So not only do I buy the regular Spawn comic book, which has been going for 35 years or something, but I also buy King Spawn, and I buy Scorched, and I buy Gunslinger Spawn. There's lots and lots of Spawns. And I was complaining or telling you that, like, it's actually getting a little overwhelming, and I can't keep up with all the Spawn books. So I have chosen to stop collecting certain ones. One of the books that I started collecting after about, I think I got the first 4, maybe the first 5 issues, was called Rat City.
Okay.
And it was because I didn't know how it connected to the Spawn books. Those ones are all quite connected. But this one here was set in like a futuristic world. It was almost like the Spider-Man of 2099 of Spawn. So it was set in a world where there's like, flying cars and stuff. And some guy that we've never met before, he gets Spawn powers. And he had, this guy was like an amputee. He had prosthetic legs, like robotic legs. Anyway, he becomes Spawn. And I was like, okay, I have no attachment to this character. Let's see where this goes. But after 4 or 5 issues, I was like, I don't care about this guy. I'm not interested in it. They haven't sold me on this futuristic world. I'm not going to stick around. Now, I could come to regret that later if they tie it into the other core books, and maybe it will find its footing. Because now I think it's in about issue 15, and so it's gone on for a little while longer. And the title, even the fact that they titled it Rat City, seemed kind of like an odd choice.
Yeah.
Because the character, even though he's a Spawn, I think the name they've given him is the Deviant. So he's a Spawn, named the Deviant. I don't think the city's even called Rat City. That might be the nickname, like the Big Apple or something. Right. So yeah, I don't know if like Todd McFarlane has done himself a disservice by maybe just, if he should have just called the book like Future Spawn,
right,
people might have been more inclined to like look it up, check it out.
Yeah. So, I don't feel like I think of the future when I hear Rat City.
Yeah. So I don't know if the book will last. Maybe if it had been really good out of the gate, I would be recommending it and be like, look, the title might not grab you, but it's actually really cool. But with kind of a lackluster title that doesn't even refer to the character, maybe they'll cancel it and relaunch it as like Deviant Spawn or something. But anyway, the character design was cool. And so he recently put out a figure of the Deviant. And so this is the one I picked up. So it's very reminiscent of the classic Spawn costume, except it's more robotic sci-fi armor. Right. The prosthetic legs like kind of carry through.
Sure.
I was kind of surprised to see that it had a soft goods cape because
it's wire.
It's barely a cape. It's almost just like a piece of material that hangs back there. But yeah, it's wired soft goods, so you can pose it. He's got these kind of plasma blasts that come off of his hands there. He's got a display stand. It came with a trading card or whatever. Anyway, it's an interesting costume. Like some of it seems organic. Like he's got like some of these things almost like crab shell mixed with robot parts. It's a little confusing, but
it's too bad that the comic didn't hold up because this looks really cool.
Yeah, the idea of a future Spawn is a pretty easy sell.
Yeah.
Because like right now there's a comic book Medieval Spawn, which is all about a Spawn set in medieval times. There's a Gunslinger Spawn, which is about a Spawn set in cowboys and Indians, era. So yeah, to do a future Spawn, which would have been robots and cyborgs,
makes sense.
It just, and maybe, like I said, maybe it got good. It's just my patience was a little thin.
Yeah.
It was like another Spawn book. I'm like, I'll give it a chance. But yeah, after about 4 issues, that was as much chance as I was going to give it.
I really like the green, like the neon green that goes throughout the suit.
Yeah, like this
looks great.
It looks great.
I don't know much about Spawn. Everything I know about Spawn is from your channel.
Yeah.
But my earliest, I remember going to Zellers as a kid.
Okay.
Going down the toy section and seeing Spawn figures. And I knew nothing about them, but those figures looked so cool. And several times I like I'd be tempted to buy them to get them with my allowance that I'd saved up or my bottle money, but I knew nothing about them. So no, I'm going to stick with what I know. But yeah, he's this like the Spawn look and the figures have always been really
Yeah,
appealing.
like this is probably a bit of an oversimplification, but McFarlane Toys kind of created the adult collectible market because there was always adults that liked toys, but they were buying, the same GI Joes and Transformers and Ninja Turtles that we were buying as kids. But there was nothing that was specifically more like, oh, you don't want buttons that light up and things like that.
Yeah.
You want nice sculpted detail, things that will stand out on your shelf and not look cheap. And McFarlane was the first guy that said, yeah, these guys aren't posing or playing with their toys, so they don't need it to have a million joints. They just want it to like look cool on their shelf. And he put like real metal chains on things and capes that were really unwieldy, big capes with full of ripples and and after that, then companies like NECA and Mezco and everything sprung up, and like he was doing toys that were really dark stuff, like really monstrous, sometimes even weirdly sexual like stuff. And nothing that you would ever buy for a kid.
Yeah.
But McFarlane, I think he really kind of created the adult market. So all of this I kind of owe to Todd McFarlane. So I try and still support him when I can. I've been a fan of his since I first became aware of him when he was an artist on like Hulk and Spider-Man and everything. And I love what he's done with the toy industry. And
now they got the rights to Ninja Turtles now coming up.
They're doing some, definitely not the sole license. Like
no, but they can start making some turtle toys in, I think it was fall of this year that they had planned on releasing, like at least like pictures or something.
Yeah,
something was supposed to be coming for fall, so I was excited to see what he can do with that.
Yeah, because like I feel like he just lost his license to the DC collectibles. And I think it took him a little while to find his footing there. Because I think that was kind of his first foray into really posable figures. I think he kind of had a hard time shaking what he'd established in the 90s of like, I don't make toys for kids. I make toys that look cool. But us adult collectors kind of want the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Sure, we want something to look cool, but I don't want to collect statues. If I wanted to collect statues, I would collect statues.
Yeah.
I want to be able to pick up my toy and bend his arm and bend his knees and stuff. Like some of those Spawn toys I have from the 90s, like he's sculpted in like a sitting position. Like sure, he comes with a throne of skulls, but if you want to pick him up and play with him, he's stuck like with his knees up, and you're like, really, you couldn't have given him a joint so he could stretch his leg out? So now with the DC stuff, that has translated into his Spawn figures. Like this is a legitimate action figure with, he's double. Is he double jointed? I think it's just single jointed. But anyways, he's got knees, he's got elbows, he's got ankles, he's got torso, he's got waist, he's got neck, like all this different articulation. You could actually play with this thing. And it's a cool looking figure.
Very cool.
Yeah, so he's not putting out nearly enough Spawn figures, actually, in my opinion, because I've been enjoying his Spawn comic books for a while, and he keeps introducing new characters all the time. And I almost felt for a while, it seemed like there was a cool new character showing up every issue. And I'm like, oh man, he owns his own comic company, he owns his own toy company.
Yeah.
Of course he can make this guy a toy. It might already be in the pipeline. So, and yet then it surprises me because that character never comes out as a toy. I'm like,
that's surprising.
Like, dude, why didn't you make that as a toy?
Yeah.
So, I feel like he could definitely make more Spawn figures every year, and I would buy them because I like the world. So this guy's cool.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah. All right, so that's all my miscellaneous toys. I don't know. Was there any other toy topics, toy news, or anything you wanted to cover before we wrap up?
I mentioned that I'm getting the Dark Leonardo coming up. I'm excited for that. So a lot of the toys I've been getting are ones that you guys already would have had there, because I'm now going back and getting things that I've missed out on. So I'm getting a lot of like like I just got like the movie Turtles the other day and things like that.
Like the NECA. Did you the NECA one or the little?
No, it's the little ones.
Playmate
like,
ones.
Yeah, the Playmate one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to get the NECA ones though. And then upcoming ones, I mentioned there's a second wave of biker mice coming out. I'm excited for that. There's a tick action figure. So I got the long box ones.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bigger one coming out in 2026. I think pre-orders up for that.
And is that also Toy Otter that's doing that?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just going to be like a bigger, more articulated one. I'm excited for that. There's supposed to be a second wave of Street Sharks. They announced at one of the San Diego Comic Cons, I believe. Don't know what happened to that, but they did announce a new Street Shark comic book is going to be coming out soon. So I'm hoping that Wave 2 didn't just fall off. Maybe they're waiting for the comic book to come out and then do something. I don't know, but
that does happen.
Yeah.
Now that you're new to the world of toys and comic books, you'll have to get used to some of that heartbreak when they announce something and it never happens, or something you really like gets canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've experienced that many, many times.
Yeah, and I find that with comic books as well. There's a few that I was like, oh, I'll pick that up, and then they tell me, well, it got canceled, so it kind of ended on a cliffhanger, so you might not want to start that, and then get disappointed. Like, all right.
Well, it's like going back to McFarlane and his DC figures.
Yeah.
I have quite a few DC figures. Like all my main characters, you know, whether it's Superman and Batman, I also have like Green Arrow and some kind of more obscure characters that I really like. I have them all in like 6-inch figures from companies like DC Direct and Mattel. But then McFarlane got the DC license, and he was making his figures 7 inches, which might not seem like a big difference, but it is when like all the figures stand like a head taller than your old figures.
Yeah.
You feel like you can't put them on a shelf together, and it just feels weird. So that kind of deterred me from buying McFarlane for the first bunch of years. I picked up the odd one here and there, maybe characters that had never been done before, but I had like 6, 7 McFarlane toys for the first couple of years. They had the license, but then these deals are happening, and you're like, well, that's too good a deal to pass on. And plus, I think he was getting better and better. Like the character selection was improving, the sculpting was improving. And now I'm kind of into it. And like my DC collection, which you can see over there, like it's getting pretty deep.
Yeah.
And now they're losing the license. And Mattel is going to start making DC figures again.
Right.
Nobody knows exactly what they're going to do, but I'm going to assume they're going to go back to 6 inches.
Right.
And it's just like now my McFarlane collection feels like I wouldn't maybe have dove into it if I knew it was going to like sputter out and I'll never have like a full Justice League in the 7-inch scale. It's always going to be missing a couple of characters and everything like that. You just want things to continue on in a certain way, in a certain style. And yeah, it can be really annoying when things just fall off. Like even more so than the multiverse figures is the DC Superpowers figures that I'm collecting over there. So those are McFarlane characters in like the little 4-inch scale. And I love those things because they're reminiscent of the Superpowers figures from the 80s. And he makes so many variations of Batman and Superman, and people would complain about it. And I try and keep things positive. I'm like, if you don't want all the Batmans on the Supermans, just don't buy them. But just wait. He'll get to the characters you love eventually.
Yeah.
But now that he's lost the license, you're like, okay, now I'm just going to have this weird collection that's missing a bunch of key characters. Like there's no Green Arrow, there's no Martian Manhunter. But instead I've got like 12 Batmans. It's just like, it feels very disjointed of a collection. So
how often does that usually happen?
It can happen. It happens quite a bit, depending on how you want to look at it. As a collector, you probably never feel like anything is complete.
Yeah.
Like for G.I. Joe, like when I was a little kid, I collected G.I. Joe from the first year it came out in 1982 right up until like 1990. And then after that, I felt like, I don't like these new toys so much. They're too bright and colorful. They're redoing a lot of the same characters instead of adding new characters. So for me, G.I. Joe was really like 82 to 90. And then when they brought G.I. Joe back in like the early 2000s and they started redoing old characters I loved and adding new characters. I was like, cool, G.I. Joe's back. And I love getting new characters, but I hope they get all the characters I loved. So I wanted them to cover at least everybody from 82 to 9, and they never did. And then in 2007, they relaunched G.I. Joe with the 4-inch figures, which I have hundreds of. And I invested a lot of money because I was buying the convention sets every year that were like $600.
Okay.
I was buying the annual subscription service figures, which again was like $600. Like thousands of dollars I spent on, and I have hundreds of them. But they put out so many variations of characters like Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
That there's still some characters that they never did. And I'm like, I've got 40 Snake Eyeses, but I didn't get a single Globulus.
Yeah.
And it kind of drives me a little nuts. And now they're doing the classified figures. And again, I'm hoping they get to all the characters I love from all the different eras of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you they won't.
Right.
There's just no way. Because I want characters from the 80s. I want characters from the early 2000s that they introduced new. I want some of the new characters they introduced in the 2007 line. I want characters from the live action movies. I want characters from the various iterations of the comic book. And it's just never going to happen.
So you'll see your collection as incomplete, even if the toy wasn't made, just because you know the character existed and you didn't get a toy of it. That's the level of completionist you're at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like my Marvel Legends collection, even with like 600 figures, it will never be complete.
Right.
Because I love a lot of weird, obscure Marvel characters. So sure, I might complete the X-Men or I might complete the Avengers. Yeah. But will I ever complete the Slingers, which is a little team of 4?
Right.
They haven't. There's so many members of the Guardians of the Galaxy that they haven't got to yet, and they probably won't. Like I want a Charlie 27 figure. Will they make him? Probably not. So yeah, with all these figures, I like that they keep making characters that I can skip because I don't want to buy every version of every figure. They just announced a whole bunch of new 2-packs that have characters like Wolverine and Captain America in them. And I'll admit, there is a little bit of temptation because they always improve the characters just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
But then I have to check myself and be like, you know what? Even though that Wolverine has a slightly better head sculpt than the one I have, I don't need it. But I keep hoping that the line will survive long enough to get to characters like the Slingers.
Right.
So they need the Wolverines and the Spider-Mans in order to stick in the occasional weirdo.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Some of these characters I like are just maybe too obscure that I don't think they'll ever get there.
Right. Yeah, it's too bad they wouldn't put out like a single wave of just obscure
but
characters.
Then that wave would probably peg warm. And companies like Walmart would say, hey, that last set of Marvel Legends, we had to deep discount them because they sat there forever. No kids wanted them. And then the next time Hasbro says, we got a new wave of all Captain America and Spider-Man, Walmart, in its short-sightedness, will be like, no, Marvel Legends don't sell anymore. So they have to be careful, and they sneak in the obscure guys one at a time where they can. But yeah, so it's going to take a long, long time to get every character I want. And I'll probably be dead before they get those all out there.
Yeah, I mean, especially with G.I. Joe quickly learning. I always knew there was a ton of different characters just from watching you guys. But even like right off the bat with the comics, it's like, okay, I don't have to get familiar with just like 1 or 2 or even 3 characters. There's like, here's 10 people that you need to know right now.
Yep. And like even every time they put a new iteration of G.I. Joe, like the Baroness, she's a character that I really like. In my classified collection over here, I think I have 4 different versions of Baroness already.
Okay.
But in the G.I. Joe comic book that Image is putting out, she's a good guy. I don't think it'll stay that way. But because she's fighting for the G.I. Joes, she's got this different armor that's got like a star on the front. It's a little more like heroic looking. Of course, now I want a heroic version of the Baroness. I want that version. I don't know. The toys in the comic books have never been great at aligning. So I don't know if we'll ever get those. But the creators of the comic book, again, if you had bought the single issues, you'd get all the like kind of editorials and their answers to fan letters and stuff. The guys that are doing the comic book collect classified, and they've said, a lot of the designs that we're using, some of the characters we're choosing to use are based on we look at our classified collection.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
So we are seeing some tie-ins there.
Yeah.
There's, I don't think you've got to him yet, but because in the main GI Joe book, they build a core team with like Duke and some other characters you may have met already. But then there's a new guy, Risk. He's a Joe.
Okay.
He's never existed in any GI Joe continuity before.
Okay.
And I'm like, why did they put him in there?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many more you could have chosen, but I don't know. Maybe the writer just felt like maybe they're going to kill him, and they didn't want to kill a beloved character, or maybe he just wanted to add his own mythology to the GI Joe. Because this thing, if I get a chance to write GI Joe, sure, it'd be fun to write Snake Eyes and Duke.
Right.
But if I could create my own character and call him like Snake Face or something, and then that character becomes in the GI Joe lore, and he's in cartoons years after I'm off of, like, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So even though Risk, we haven't learned a whole lot about him yet, I immediately wanted a toy of him. I'm like, I feel like, well, he's in the current book. How come I don't have a current toy of him? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we get one down the line, but until we do, it's another hole. They just created a new hole in my collection.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can relate to that because, like, with The Last Ronin, there's, like, they put out so many different of, like, the Ronin, and, like, so many different variations, but there's so many characters that they haven't done yet, and I'm like, well, what are you waiting for? Because, like, those comics aren't new. I'm like, this has been years now. I'm like, now you're on to, like, the third series of it, so I'm like, does that mean I'm not going to see figures of the ones from, like, that you missed in series 1 and 2?
Well, man, there's been Marvel characters since like the 60s that haven't had toys. And, it's not always the weird, obscure guys. Some of these characters have been kind of like a big deal, and they still haven't got toys yet. I don't know why it takes so long sometimes. Yeah. The toy companies like to save money, and they want to reuse parts.
Yeah. So
sometimes characters that are overly complicated, like, just for example, I collect the Masters of the Universe Origins line right now. I think this line has gone deeper than I think most people ever thought it would. We're getting all kinds of obscure characters added to the line. And when it comes to the classic toy line from the 80s, most of those characters have been done. Except for Too Bad. He's the guy that's got two heads.
Yeah.
And he's got, like, his arms are kind of mounted on his shoulders, and he's... To make Too Bad, you can't reuse He-Man's body or Skeletor's. You have to sculpt a whole new torso, and you can't really use it for anybody else. Now, mind you, they would find a way to reuse it.
Yeah.
But Too Bad was the only two-headed character in the vintage line. So I'm sure the reason we haven't got Too Bad is not because Mattel thinks nobody wants them or they don't like them. It's just tooling dollars to invest in a whole new torso.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's, like I mentioned, Globulus earlier. I don't know if you know who that is, but he was in that Cobra Commander.
I've gotten to him.
Yeah, so he's a guy that has a snake body. They made him in the original 80s G.I. Joe toy line, and he had from the waist down, he had a long rubber wired snake body.
Okay.
And so when I was getting modern G.I. Joes in the 4-inch scale, I was like, please make Globulus. He's an important character. But again, that would have been, well, they'd have to invest in this whole new snake body that they'd probably have to figure out how to articulate it, and like, we can't use this again for anybody else. So it just wasn't worth their time, and I don't know if we'll see Globulus in the classified line for the same reason. So who knows?
Time will tell.
I know. I'd be like, just give him legs. I don't even care. Just give him green legs. I just want to have them in my collection. So
I was actually going to ask you how you pronounce that name, because I'm reading through G.I. Joe and I was like, I thought it might be easier reading some of the names compared to some of the other comics I've been reading, because they're more like, there's magic or there's like aliens and things like that. So I was like, it's a little bit more far out there. And there was quite a few names that popped up quickly. I was like, oh, okay, I don't think I'm saying this right. I'm gonna have to. That's one thing I have been using Google for when it comes to comics. Like, how do you pronounce this name? And then the robot voice will tell me how I'm supposed to be reading it.
But here's kind of a funny. I obviously did not have much. I wasn't thinking ahead when I did this. But right now I'm happily married and all that stuff. But we go years back before I had met my wife Vanessa, and I was on the dating apps. I think the two that I was on at the time, there was Plenty of Fish, which is what I met my wife on, And I think OkCupid was another big one at the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of those ones are even still around. But when you're trying to, join Instagram now or something, and you want to call it, I'll call it Scott. And you're like, no, you have to call yourself like Scott2781. Or like, all the good names are taken. So I remember joining these dating apps and trying to come up with a name that was like clever or cute, and there was nothing. Somebody already has this. Somebody already has this. I'm like, are you serious? And on my OkCupid profile, my dating name was Globulous, which is not a cute or attractive sound. It sounds like a gross name.
Yeah, it sounds like you might need some ointment.
Yeah, and it never even dawned on me that Vanessa, I think, Googled it and said, she said, yeah, I saw your name on there, and I Googled it to see what it was. And of course, this weird G.I. Joe with a snake body comes up. I'm like, I probably should include in that people would Google it, and then if they weren't already turned off by the name, once they realize it's a name of a snake G.I. Joe character, they would be like, delete
Is
this
there some
guy.
sort of innuendo here?
But I picked it not because I'm like a diehard Globulous fan, even though I am.
Yeah.
It's just like I was so frustrated. I must have tried to pick 50 names.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope, somebody already has this name. That I was like, nobody would put Globulous as their dating name. And sure enough, nobody did.
That should have been your first clue that it might not have been a good idea, maybe.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I got married, so I got through it. It worked out.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, should we?
Yeah. No, that's a good place to end it, I think.
All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button and leave us comments below. Yeah. We'll bring you back on again soon.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
We'll see what kind of reaction we get to the comic book episode we shot. And if people care, maybe we'll do more of those. The problem with it is I don't think it could be a regular feature because once you settle into a groove of what we'll end up just buying the same comic books month after month, and people won't want to hear me just say every month Spider-Man's still good or Spawn still sucks.
Yeah.
But right now, where you're still kind of feeling it out and discovering new books all the time, I still think it's kind of an interesting conversation.
Yeah. And who knows what I'll be on to by the next time.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for joining me again.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Ciao.